Okay, GamerChick here with another quick Source Filmmaker tutorial. In this one, I'll be discussing some simple camera tricks. Now, once you have Source Filmmaker open, what you need to do is look in your viewport here. You will notice that you don't have a camera yet. In order to create a camera, go to the drop-down menu. Go to Change Scene Camera and New Camera. You'll notice that you now have a camera, which is called Camera 1. Now, if you click in your viewport and you drag your mouse, you should be able to look around freely. Once you get the hang of looking around, you can also press W, A, S, and D, and you can move around in your map. Now, you can do this on almost, basically, every map in Source Filmmaker, and you can use it if you press Shift, you can move faster. If you press Control, you can pan a little bit slower. Let's see here, what other little controls are there? While you're clicked in the viewport, if you press Z, you can move up. If you press X, you can move down. If you press R and you move your mouse side to side, you can also make your camera roll a little bit like this and look around all crazy. Another thing you can do is hold down Alt and drag in and drag out. You can also drag up and drag down with the middle mouse. Another thing you might want to do with your camera is zoom in and zoom out or change your field of view. To do that, simply scroll on the mouse wheel. You can zoom in like this, you can zoom out like that. When you're working in Source Filmmaker, you might want to make more than one camera. Now, you can switch to your work camera by clicking the little button here, but what I like to do, instead of using the work camera, is just create a new camera altogether for my little scene. Now I go to Create Camera, and now I have Camera 2. And you can do all the other tips and tricks from the previous camera and put them in here, vice versa. You can also switch back to your other camera by going here to Change Scene Camera, and instead of clicking on New Camera, go back to the old camera, and you will notice that the scene changes. You can always use your work camera, but if you notice, it has this big white line thing. Now you're probably wondering, what the hell is this? All it is showing you your field of view from your other camera, and I think this one is showing us camera number 1. Yep. Showing us camera 1. Now if we move this and we go back to the work camera, you'll notice a little white line thing changed. That's all the little white lines are. Just make sure you don't record your final scene with the work camera, which is why I usually don't even use the work camera, just because it's kind of an annoyance for me. So anyways, that's basically what the work camera is. Now what else am I going to discuss here? Let's see. Oh yes, animating a camera. Now this is probably one of the more important things you're going to have to do in Source Filmmaker. Like, let's say you want to zoom in on this window here, but you're not sure how to animate it. For right now, let's see here. Make sure you're in the timeline editor. Let's split it maybe, let's see here, 15 seconds in. Sounds pretty good. So I'll hit that. I'll hit B to split up my scene. Select the first one and go into the motion editor. Now you don't have to necessarily be in the motion editor to do this, but I'm going to discuss both ways of using the motion editor and the graph editor. First things first, what you need to do is set up your camera however you like. Let's just say I'm going to leave it here, and this one I'm on camera 2. What you need to do is go to your animation set editor up in the top little level here. Click on Create Animation Set for Existing Elements. Scroll down until you see Camera 1 or Camera 2. In this case, it's Camera 2, so all you gotta do there is hit OK, and you will notice you have a nice little animation set here, and you'll see things like Field of View, Focal Distance, Aperture, Tone Map Scale, Bloom Scale, SSAO, blah blah blah, and R-Transform. Now for this one, I'm just going to show you how to change the actual emotions of it. And there you go. Okay, so we're ready to record our motion, but how do we do it? Now, you'll notice at the bottom of the screen, the little timeline there will turn orange. And you'll notice the little line moves in and out. This is a basic way of animating things in Source Filmmaker. I wouldn't really recommend it. I usually use keyframes for this sort of thing, but whatever. So anyways, let's see here. We're going to zoom in like this, or something. So let's see here. Zoom all the way back out, kind of where your timeline starts, and press space to start it. And you'll notice nothing happens. Well, what we need to do is move it while this part is moving. So, I'll zoom back out, I'll press space and I will move in towards our window, like so, and maybe I'll go in the building and out the building and, I don't know, I guess back up. Now pause that and hit enter and you'll notice it turns green again. Now when you zoom out, look again, and what do you know? Yay, it zooms in, but it's a little bit of a choppy motion. So what we're going to do with this is select the part where it moves by pressing shift, holding it, and dragging it the whole length of this little clip here, and zoom out or whatever. Go to the procedural tab and hit smooth. Keep hitting smooth a whole bunch of times. You can also hit jitter if you want to make it crazy looking. Keep hitting smooth, and that should be good enough for what we need it for. You will now notice that, hey, the motion looks a whole lot smoother. Make sure you hit enter whenever you have it to whatever smoothness or jitteriness you like, and there you go. Now let's say you don't like your camera animation for whatever reason. Maybe you want to go back and check it or change it, but if you notice, when you are in your little view here, just playing it back, and let's say you made a mistake, but notice, invalid manipulation, you can't manipulate an animated camera or light through the viewport when in timeline mode. So basically what you need to do is switch to your motion editor or your graph editor, and that is the only way you can move it once you have an animation set in your little SFM thing over here. Basically go back to your motion editor and you can look around like normal. Now our little scene here is starting to look pretty good. Let's see. Now you might want to make a more complex camera scene though with some extra controls. What I like to do for more complex camera scenes is go into the graph editor. Now let's see here, we'll click on our shot 2 and you'll notice you don't have another animation set, so what we've got to do is create another one for the same camera or a different camera if you like. I'm just going to use the same one. And let's see here, go to Graph Editor. Now the first step in creating an animation in the Graph Editor is creating bookmarks. The easiest way to do that is by pressing M, and we'll add an extra bookmark at the end of mine, which I've already made a whole bunch. Basically, this first bookmark is the start of your camera motion, which is right here. This is the base for your animation, and you'll notice that you can move to this separate bookmark. If you press your arrow keys, you can better line it up with that bookmark. Now, you can move to the side, and you'll notice the little line moves up like that. And you reverse your animation, you press spacebar to play it, and there you go. It goes that way, and it goes back to the side. And it returns to a spot if you put more than one bookmark at the end. And you can also make another animation. Let's say we wanted to go up, click the viewport, drag up, and the camera will go way up and way up until there's no more skybox. And it'll come back down fairly quickly, and there you go. And it will eventually make itself go back to the point where it started at. Let's say you want to make your animation a little bit shorter or longer. The only thing you got to do there is drag out your little bookmarks. So you want to make that part slow, and it goes like that. You can also make this part really fast. Like, if you zoom in with your middle mouse while you're in the graph editor, you'll notice these second things get a little bit shorter, and you'll notice there's like 1/10 of a second or whatever it is, and you can use this to make really quick animations. I wouldn't really recommend them that much for camera motions, but if you want to do something animation on your character, for example, that would be a good thing to use. Zoom that one out, I guess, a little bit more. Maybe that one, and that one, and you notice the whole animation has changed. A lot slower. Say it's a lot faster. That one faster, and a lot slower. And you can also add another bookmark and do something else with it, and yeah, there you go. That's just simple panning for this part. Okay, so for the final part of my tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do some more advanced camera tricks. As you notice, I split shot 2 into another shot, creating shot 3. In this case, I've added a demo man, and he's just standing on the roof. Now, as you've probably seen in our little animation set here for our camera number 2, there's all these little tabs. There's field of view, focal distance, aperture, tone map scale, bloom scale, SSAO, and transform, which we were using before. Now, this part, I'm going to show you field of view. Very self-explanatory. It's like what we were doing before, but instead of using the mouse wheel in the viewport, I'm just dragging the little slider in and out. For our next one, tone map scale, it's very simple also. This just sets the tone of your map, basically making it light or dark. You can use it to make it look like night, or you can use it to make it really super bright. I don't know, maybe Doma Man has a hangover. So I'm going to delete that part because I don't want that. Now, bloom scale is similar to tone map, but it just changes the bloom, which makes the glow on everything a whole lot brighter. Okay, so these little controls are fairly basic: bloom scale, tone map, and field of view. But focal distance and SSAO are a whole nother story. So for now, I'll show you how to do SSAO. Now, in your render settings, you will want to have ambient occlusion checked on. Now, I had it checked off just so that my frames per second doesn't go below, 24. You might also want to have this unchecked while you're doing your own animations, but just make sure you have it checked whenever you want to do rendering, or you want to set your SSAO bias. Now, basically what SSAO bias does is control the amount of shading on your person. Notice if I move the scale up, he has a little bit less, and it looks a little bit smoother than if I went all the way back down. So I'm going to leave it a little bit more like that, and it'll look a lot nicer when we go here and pause. Okay, so the other controls for SSAO are strength and radius. Strength just controls how thick the shading is, like so. Gonna zoom it out, just kind of make it look good. And your SSAO radius basically does the same thing, but covers more. Note that in order to mess around with focal distance, you will need to have your progressive refinement checked. You do this by right-clicking in the viewport, and you might want to check your render settings also and make sure everything in here is checked. Hit OK, and we will go back to our normal timeline right here. Notice that when I play it, there's nothing, and it looks the same, and the whole part is just grainy. But when I pause it, it looks like a final render would look. So in that case, I'm going to go back there, go back to my motion editor, and we're going to show you how to do focal distance. Now, note when you're editing focal distance, you won't be able to see the actual changes until you go back to your timeline, like I said before. So let's make sure the settings are right. You just kind of slide this in and out, and it gives you a number to show you how far your little blurriness thing will be. Go back to, I guess 47.5 will work for now. Go back here, and pause, and nothing really happened, so we're going to go back in here, and we're going to click on aperture. Now aperture basically does the same thing. Got to kind of move that out a little bit, hit enter, and when we go back here, what do you know? It's all blurry in the background. So what you need to do is mix focal distance and aperture till you get a little setting that you like. In this case, it looks pretty good, so I'm just going to leave it like that. When you're in Source Filmmaker, you can basically make endless combinations of these things, and whatever setting you like, you can also change it and animate it the same way we animated the camera with keyframes. Now, for this part, I guess, maybe I want to make it look like night a little bit, so I can show you how to do some lights as well. So I'm going to go to my tone map scale, make sure only this one is selected, because if you have all of these selected, you will also move these, and you don't want to mess up your shot because it looks kind of nice already. So I'm going to go here, going to press a little bookmark, and let's say, I'm going to make it a few seconds long, going to make a bookmark there, and we're going to make this a whole lot darker. That looks pretty good. So make sure that's good. And if you notice in your motion editor, it goes down very slowly, like so. Now our little screenshot here is starting to look pretty good, but what it's missing is a little bit of a light, which I think it needs. So what we're going to do is go here, add a new camera. Actually no, I'm going to switch back to our camera number 1, and whoop-de-doo, it looks like normal. So note that it just changes whatever you do in here, the one that's selected, you'll just change that one. So you can always have an extra one to go back to edit or add other things. So let's see here, I'm gonna situate my thing here. I'm gonna look at him from the top down. Now to add our little light, what we're gonna do is go here, right click, and create animation set for a new light. You'll notice that it's way totally bright, but if we switch back to our scene camera number 2, it looks a little bit more normal. So, I'm gonna go here, gonna do our intensity, I guess I'll turn it up a little bit, maybe I'll change the color. When you scroll down in here, you have a whole bunch of even more options. You can do field of view on your light, which will increase your shading or decrease your shading. Vertical field of view, which will make it go up and down. Horizontal, side to side. Your radius will also make that increase. Your shadow filter size will change your shading a little bit more. I'm just going to leave it like that. Your min distance or max distance will change the amount of light that hits your guy. Your max distance does the same thing as min distance, only for max. What else? Shadow depth bias, also another thing for shadows. These other things, I don't really know what they do. You don't really need them either to make your stuff look good, so I'm just going to skip past all those and go straight to our color. Now for color, it's really simple. You just drag these in and out. It's RGB, basically red, green, and blue. Drag your red slider out, makes it blue. Drag your green slider in, makes it pink. Drag your blue slider in, makes it yellow. And you can kind of mix these and make whatever lighting you want. In this case, I'm going to make it a little bit of a blue light. I'm going to mix all these. A little bit blue, kind of cut out some of the reds a little bit, and that looks more normal. Hit enter when you like it, and there you go. That's how you change your colors on your light. Okay, so notice that when we zoom out, since we changed our tone map with a bookmark, our lighting looks a little bit weird in the beginning. So what we're going to do is go to our graph editor once more, and we're going to go to our camera, we're going to go back to all, we're going to go back to tone map scale so that it shows our little bookmarks here. Now we're not going to do anything to these bookmarks, but we're also going to select our light. We're going to go down back to our intensity here. We're going to hit Control to select that while selecting tone map scale. Now what we need to do is add another bookmark right where these other bookmarks are. Hit M, go back to this one, hit M again, and you can unselect camera 2 because we don't need those bookmarks anymore, and we'll go here. And so our intensity stays the same the whole time, but for this part I don't want it as intense, so I'm just going to go back here and drag that all the way back out. So when you go back here, our light looks more normal. That kind of didn't look right either, so I'm just going to go back here. It does take a little bit of time to do this right, so yeah, just bear with me, I'll get it right eventually. Okay, so I got my little scene here to look close enough by just going in the keyframes here and just dragging it out, so the animation was a little bit slower on the light. And that looks a lot better than it did before, so I'm just going to leave it like that for now. Now, basically the last thing you need to do is just go back through your whole little video and check and make sure that all your animation seems smooth enough. Now, if it isn't smooth enough, you will want to go into your motion editor like before. Just click on here, and we already did that one, but we didn't do this one. Now, when you're rendering and you don't do this, it might stutter a little bit. And you just select all these in your motion editor, because in your graph editor it basically just sends the stuff to the motion editor, so you don't need to mess with the graph editor anymore. You just gotta go to smooth, keep smoothing that one out. I also messed around with this one a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Just hit smooth, hit enter when it looks good. Anyways, that's pretty much it as far as this goes, and you'll just want to make a final render to make sure everything looks as it should.